Welcome to episode 23, gang.
Welcome.
We have a Patreon this week. Our very first international Patreon.
So exciting.
Chloe Green.
Hey, Chloe.
Enjoy your episode.
Hope you love this.
And fuck, I'm so excited we got somebody from outside America.
Yeah, that is exciting.
Looks like we made it. Chloe, please don't leave me.
All I can think about is that Britney Spears Christmas song. I was like, Katie, this isn't a real song. Yes, it is.
And then we got tagged.
We did.
In a post.
And it's
with
real.
A song and a Krampus mask.
Greatest. Just the greatest. More than I could have hoped for that somebody would have a Krampus mask. Also wondering why I don't have a Krampus mask, but...
It is, yeah.
It is surprising. I only have the horns and my own face.
You're so nice to yourself.
I'm so close. I just need the forked tongue. Today, because we did our shout out, right? Do we have any other housekeeping?
Well, we have new merch.
Oh, yeah, that's right. New merch.
We changed our merch provider to be able to offer people who are outside the U.S. the opportunity to buy our merch. So there's more options, but also very different options. So we have some clothing now. So we have a long sleeve t-shirt, a short sleeve t-shirt, and a hoodie.
Yep.
And 2 different tote bags. One of the tote bags is sold out right now. We don't have any control over that. I think it's just like the bag itself is sold out.
Yeah, you said sold out, and I was like, ooh, I'm like, nope, that's not. I'm getting ahead of myself.
But there is another tote bag option, and of course our sticker, our logo sticker, and our Giuseppe sticker.
Tortellini. Yeah.
The tortellini with knives.
The armed tortellini.
If there's anything else that you guys would like to see on merch.
Like a shrunken head or a G-string. Let us know.
Yeah, let us know. Again, the best way to reach out is either to submit through our form on our website or under the Contact Us tab, or shoot us a message on Instagram. Mm-hmm. But the form is definitely way easier to keep track of.
Yes.
Because we can, organize those into
their own folder. Yeah.
But yes, we have new merch. Check that out. It's on our website. You can go to thebarsanklehigh.com and then just click merch at the top of the page, and it'll take you there. And so we're trying it out. It'll be that way for at least the first 3 months of the year, because I'm not doing it again for a little bit, and we'll see how it goes. But hopefully you all like it and order a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, order our merch. So you can wear us on your bodies.
Yeah, put us on your bodies.
Not just in your ear holes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We're not going to just delight your brain juices. We're going to delight your body hair.
Oh. Sure.
Mwah.
We're in a weird mood today, guys.
Yeah, and as far as other housekeeping stuff, Patreon is kicking up. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
So, definitely get up in there.
Yep.
And,
we've been playing some games.
Yeah. And our Limbo Champion subscribers, remember, you get added to our close friends list on Instagram. So we've been posting a lot more in there since there's now a lot more of you.
Yep.
So we have an audience on our close friends list now.
Instead of just us.
So
shame me from my show.
Yeah, you do that. And we're about 3 to 4 months away from being able to offer annual subscriptions on Patreon.
Which is super exciting.
So we need somewhere between 20 to 50 more Patreon subscribers for a few months, and then we can offer annual subscriptions, which is also a great gift to give to people.
Awesome gift.
But yeah, we'll have a lot more options on Patreon once we hit that milestone. So we're really looking forward to it, and
can't wait.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to do that by Easter.
Yeah, sooner rather than later.
What better gift for Jesus than to support our podcast.
What better gift for Jesus on his death day?
Well, it's a resurrection day, technically.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna get.
Did you go to Catholic school or not?
I did. I just.
His death day was Good Friday.
I was thinking about in the Krampus episode when we were talking about everything being made up.
Yeah, so this totally real thing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep myself from going on a spiral.
What better gift for completely real Jesus
yes.
than joining our totally real Patreon?
Maybe if you join Patreon, you'll also float into the sky and move a rock.
Maybe. Or maybe we will.
Maybe we would. You know what? If we hit annual billing, we will float into the sky.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, my tummy is making noises.
Yeah, I heard that. That came from deep.
It's like the Balrog from Lord of the Rings. Like 3 listeners are going to appreciate that reference. One of them is PK.
Oh my god. Oh boy. Whew. So, today, because we can go into...
Oh yeah, what are we talking about today?
We're ready for this now, right? Because I'm always immediately, like, we hit record, I'm like, all right, so... Katie's like, no, we have things to talk about first.
Because we will forget.
Oh, 100%. I forget between when we talk about it before we start recording. We hit record and I'm like, so content. She's like, no, we just talked about this.
Remember when we recorded our promo trailer? And I was like, I'm Katie. And you were like, and I'm Garet.
And then I looked off.
You stopped talking.
Finished. Just stared at the wall.
It's the best.
Blank face. My work is done here.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing that energy into today's episode.
Happy New Year. Happy birthday.
Oh my god. We are talking about hormones today. So, there's a lot of information with this.
Is this hormones in general or hormones and ADHD?
So, it's kind of both.
Okay.
So, I was going to focus just on hormones, the ADHD, but I kind of, when I started reading about stuff, I was like, well, let me just go back and read on a more fundamental level what this is, and then maybe I'll understand the impact better. So I felt like it was important to kind of do, remember like in 5th or 6th grade when you have to like growing to maturity or my changing body or whatever.
Yeah, that's how I learned what pubes are.
That's how you learned what pubes were?
Well, yeah, I didn't have them yet.
Oh my god. So yeah, I want to cover, as much as I was just going to be like hormones and ADHD, I say this every
Don't worry, I'll cover the ADHD with my bullshit tangents.
I kind of fell down a rabbit hole and I thought it was important to cover everything from like a fundamental level too.
That makes sense.
Because also I feel like, at least in the United States, like our sex ed is lacking.
Yep.
So I learned from this. I thought maybe other people would learn from it too. So we're going to kind of cover both. It's going to be like a crash course in hormones and also how it impacts ADHD symptoms. So I am going to be focusing on girls and women, which is referring to like AFAB, cisgender women. Trying to be better with it, but it does get confusing when you're going through this, so I'll try my best. We'll see how it goes.
So when you say girls and women, you mean any AFAB individual?
Yes.
Unless otherwise specified?
Yes.
Okay. Will you be discussing the effect of transitioning on hormones?
So I'm not planning on covering it right now, but I want to update with that and other like hormonal, I want to cover that as well as like other hormonal issues that people have, like PCOS and hyperthyroidism, things like that.
That's like down the road.
Yes, those are that's like a to be continued. So I think this is going to be an ongoing conversation. I also think this is one of those topics that more information will come out and we'll probably updating as things go on because it is interesting.
Okay, noted.
And also, when you are researching or there's stuff showing up in your feed about like hormonal imbalances, it can get a little like woo-woo with just do this essential oil and it'll fix all your hormones. So we're going to try and avoid that and stick to like real information as much as we can. So hormones impact every person. It doesn't matter what your gender was assigned at birth or really anything. I mean, hormones really impact all humans their whole lives, just differently. And I think something else to keep in mind is, you know, because girls tend to display more internalized ADHD symptoms like inattention, daydreaming, forgetfulness, there's a lot of girls that go without proper diagnosis and treatment, which we've talked about before. I mean, you know, it's much easier to overlook somebody sitting daydreaming than somebody who can't sit still.
Correct.
And I think that kind of contributes to this gender bias, which comes up a lot. Again, we talked about it before, but that litmus test for ADHD has historically been male presenting symptoms. And I think because there's a lot of like co-occurring things like anxiety, depression, girls are underdiagnosed and I think face more of a medical bias based on gender.
Totally.
And obviously, like, this has been a topic of conversation, especially like the last few years.
Yeah.
Things like medical bias, you know, gender identity, race, weight, socioeconomic status. There's a lot of things that kind of feed that cycle. And obviously, it's not just white male doctors that are doing it. I mean, it is
totally
it's a big problem. So just to touch on that medical bias that I think plays a major role in hormone and hormone-related issues.
Well, yeah, I mean, if the establishment of white cishet men is researching and publishing all the information on it, then it's all going to be information that is presented in a way as if it applies to everybody when that's not the case.
Right, we're getting a fraction of the picture.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is so easy to then, as a woman, internalize that and be like, I guess I'm just broken.
Right. There's just something wrong with me. Like, how many issues, especially hormonal issues, go completely unmonitored, completely untreated, and like on a very fundamental level, like, are we shortening someone's life because we're not treating something that could be treated? Are people living with chronic conditions because somebody's not taking them seriously? Or
the answer is yes.
Yes. I'm posing these like they're rhetorical. This morning
for my back pain, and I was like, I shouldn't be waking up with back pain, but I've got these enormous sweater cannons that I'm hauling around every day.
And like, I mean, when we talk about things being untreated, unmonitored, like when I had to be about 20, maybe 20, and I said to my gynecologist, like, hey, I think I have polycystic ovarian syndrome. Like, I was reading about it and, you know, I have all of these symptoms. He looked me right in the face and was like, no, you don't have that. Period. Like, that was the end of the conversation. I saw a different practitioner 5 years later, and the first question she asked me when she walked in the room after, like, hi, how are you, was, has anybody talked to you about polycystic ovarian syndrome before? And I was like, hold on a second, I'm just going to scream into the void, and then we can have this conversation.
Yeah, like pseudonominous.
That
pterodactyl.
Yeah, like that.
Tune into Patreon to get that reference.
And hear me stumbling through pronunciation. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I think it's something that a lot of people experience, but certainly a lot of women experience. And for sure, when it comes to hormones, which, I mean, the endocrine system is just so, it impacts so many different things in so many different ways that I think it is hard to pinpoint hormonal issues a lot of the time.
Totally. I think, like, my realization that I had no fucking concept on hormones and what they do to me is when I was meeting with my dietitian, and she was like, well, cortisol is a hormone that, like, causes all these other things. And it didn't even occur to me that that would be called a hormone. I thought hormone was estrogen and progesterone and testosterone. The things that end in "-one."
Yep, is all I knew. Period.
Those three things. Either it makes you have a period or it makes your voice drop. Like,
yes. You're either mad or you're sad. Those are the only two options.
Right. Or you're shedding a lining of some sort.
That's all that can possibly happen. I know about hormones.
Right.
I took sex ed in the US.
I had no clue. And then I was like, well, shoot, what other hormones are flying around?
Totally.
Evidently a bunch.
There's a bunch. There's a lot. So the average age of diagnosis for women with ADHD who weren't diagnosed as children is 36 to 38 years old.
Oh, I'm finally above average.
You're like, yes, I beat the odds.
34.
Take that. And usually before that, girls and women are diagnosed as having like a mood disorder or anxiety, which that's exactly what happened with me. And even if these are secondary conditions, treating those is not going to like cope with what is actually going on, which we know, we've talked about. So estrogen, obviously for women, is a key component in the reproductive system. But there's also a very strong link between different cognitive functions when it comes to estrogen. So I guess different hormones have different like target organs where they go.
Okay.
So for estrogen, the brain is one of those targeted organs, which I didn't.
That's why we're smarter than men.
That's it. End of the episode. We solved it. So estrogen can affect, and I was shocked by this, estrogen can affect dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine.
Well, fuck me.
Yeah.
God.
And obviously, we've talked about these, I don't know,
I'm fine.
10,000 times. So we know that those three things have a major impact on cognition.
My calm strip.
Memory. Katie furiously rubbing the calm strip on her phone. Limbo 20. She needs a fresh one because she just rubbed that one smooth. Oh, we're not gonna make dirty jokes. Not gonna make dirty jokes. So we know dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, those impact cognition, memory, focus, mood, sleep.
And so estrogen fucks with that production?
Yes. And that balance, which in ADHD, they're already fucked.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, quick reminder, I guess. ADHD is caused by an imbalance, or believed to be caused by an imbalance of dopamine and norepinephrine, either production or reuptake inhibition, meaning that your brain stops trying to absorb it too soon, or it reabsorbs the dopamine and or norepinephrine that it's issued, like spit out too fast for it to be absorbed by the connecting neurotransmitters, which is why people with ADHD are often like thrill seekers or really impulsive, because they're chasing a dopamine release to get more dopamine kicked out, because if you can at least produce excessive dopamine, you have a better chance of receiving it and it being used rather than just being sucked back up into your brain and not used.
And also, who doesn't love that hit of, ooh.
You love new things. Don't get me wrong.
There's also that factor.
Yeah.
Shiny. And there was research in 2017 suggesting that like attention and those executive function skills can improve when estrogen levels are higher. Meaning conversely, ADHD symptoms can worsen when estrogen levels are lower. So we know that women's lives are very much shaped, despite everybody being impacted by hormones, women's lives are very much shaped by these defined era in their lives of changing hormones. So when we're adolescents, we start puberty, which then rolls us right into menstruating, which causes like decades of hormonal fluctuations. Some people in that time also then have pregnancy, which causes its own hormonal surges and fluctuations and drop-offs. And then, you roll into perimenopause and then menopause, which is another shift in hormones. So really, women's whole lives are in this period of hormonal flux that we know about, but I feel like aside from jokes, probably isn't really talked about a
No, it's like fully accepted as like,
right.
that's life.
That's just how it
Hot
is.
flashes. Ha ha.
You're gonna pee your pants. Have fun. Bye. And plus, like, there's other major disruptions to hormone cycles, like PCOS, like we were mentioning, hyperthyroidism. I didn't realize diabetes is considered a hormonal imbalance.
And the current trend of diagnosing Ozempic, I think is what it's called. The diabetes,
drug.
type 2 diabetes medication
Yep.
as a weight loss medication for people without type 2 diabetes, that's causing now a shortage of medication for people who actually need it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's also fucking with their hormone systems as well.
What a shock.
Yeah.
So weird how that happens.
Yep.
And obviously, you know, changes to hormones like transition of genders. And the endocrine system it's complex. It's comprised of multiple different glands that produce multiple different kinds of hormones, and it's interconnected, slow acting, long lasting. Like, it really is. It's a very pervasive thing that I think it just makes it it's like a moving target. So you've got this ever changing landscape that impacts, I mean, as far as ADHD goes, it's constantly like moving ground and impacting what you're experiencing and how you can manage that, because the ground's kind of always shifting.
It's like, I'm picturing either, and I don't know if you probably have, but like the peat bogs in like Ireland or Scotland, like, you're sort of steady enough, but like,
you take a step and you're gonna fall on your face.
Right, like if you're not like paying attention,
right,
then you will lose your balance and you'll totally wipe out. Or alternatively, like those water bridges that are like they have them on the ocean or whatever to help people with mobility issues to like be able to experience waves and stuff. Same kind of thing, like a dock that's sort of like free floating.
Right.
Where like, yeah, you can keep your balance, but you got to focus on it.
Or if things are calm, it's fine.
Correct.
But when conditions change, you're wiping out.
Yeah.
So it definitely, and I think endocrine issues, because there's so many different targeted organs, and there's just a really broad range of symptoms that people experience, it can be kind of hard to pinpoint those issues. And I think a lot of the times with that medical bias, like, people aren't investing the time in trying to figure out why, how,
right,
what's going on.
I think it seems like, and I don't personally have much of this experience. I've heard, certainly your stories.
You're welcome.
But thankfully, my doctors have always been very receptive to what I've been saying. But I do think that, to an extent, even talking with like my mom or other girlfriends, it's very like, like close enough.
Yep.
Like, we can like maybe manage your symptoms 80% of the time.
Yep.
And that's like an ideal outcome.
And if that management involves 15 other side effects, well, that's part of it.
Yeah.
So you can either deal with those side effects, or you can deal with the issue that's going on to begin with.
Which totally happens to men too.
Yep.
I know men that has happened to as well, where their doctors are like, well, we can just give you another medication, rather than like adjusting something
right
that's currently in the mix or figuring out a different solution altogether. It's just this continuing like piling on. And
yes.
I have no problem with taking the medications that I need to take, but I can feel myself kind of getting to that point where it's like, I don't want to constantly be going to the pharmacy.
Yes.
And like constantly be on something where now every time I take a trip, I have to plan out how much medication I need to take with me, and when I need to get a prescription filled, especially for my ADHD meds.
Yep.
Like, that's a fucking nightmare.
Side note, I did that one time. So I have great health insurance.
Yeah.
There was one time I was going on a trip and I was going to run out of a medication while I was on that trip. So I needed it filled like a week early. Mm-hmm. And I called the pharmacy and I was like, hey, can you just refill this early? No, you have to call your health insurance company. So I called the health insurance company and had to like jump through all these hoops. And then the lady is warning me, you can only do this once in a plan year. I'm like, what if I have to travel more than once and this happens again? Like, okay, so should I start skipping some of my doses to like give me extra medication so that in case I have to take it while, you know what I mean? It's nuts.
Did you sign up for that thing through our health insurance of, it's like the new health monitoring bullshit where you get
No.
like free money? I did. And so you have to do this like health questionnaire thing to earn points. And so I'm doing it. And one of the questions was like, do you take the medication that's prescribed to you? Yes. Do you take it as prescribed and follow all the instructions? Yes.
Yeah.
Have you ever not taken it as prescribed? No. But like,
Yeah, when I forgot.
Right, exactly. Like, my problem isn't that I'm abusing my Concerta or my Ritalin. The problem is that I fully forget to take my Ritalin in the afternoon.
Yep.
Or I accidentally drop my Concerta pills down the sink when I'm trying to fill my little pill organizer.
And that's the other thing, too. It's like, so what if I dropped them and they got wet? Or, like, there's just so many things that can happen. And to act like...
fully happen to people with neurodivergence. Like, I'm not out here selling my Ritalin. Like, it's just, first of all, I mean, I have a whole life. It's not worth it for me to, like, risk it to do that.
Right.
But also, like, like, I don't know. There's just so many other ways that I can spend my time than, like, shilling 10 milligrams of Ritalin on the street corner.
Well, that's what got me, too. It was, like, not that it matters, but it was blood pressure medication. Like, ma'am, no one's enjoying this. What am I going to do with this medication?
Is it like Viagra? Like, why do they care if you're having more of it?
It was just so...
like, your boner's going to be too big, ma'am.
It was just so wild to me that it was this attitude like, you should plan your vacations around your prescription refill schedule.
Yeah, that, like delinquent... Like, they treat you like a delinquent every time.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So anyway, speaking of medical bias... all right, so we are going to start this journey about hormones.
Oh, we didn't start yet.
No. Oh, no, that was the intro.
Ah!
That was just intro.
The more you know.
We're going to start this little journey with puberty and adolescence, everybody's favorite time period.
Totally.
Just thinking about this is going to make everybody cringe, so...
We should share some pictures from our adolescence, like our school photos.
Oh my god, the frizzy hair. Who is that? Emily Gross on Instagram. If you haven't seen her posts, shout out to Emily Gross. She has the absolute funniest shtick that she does, and it's supposed to be her as like an adolescent.
Yeah, like in middle school.
And it is perfection.
It is so spot on. Like, what'd you guys do this weekend? Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
And she's got the frizzy hair and the braces and the unibrow and the acne. It is just poetry. It's so perfect.
I got this cool Paul Frank t-shirt. It's just like,
oh,
these are my gel pens.
You guys went to the Usher concert. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, it's spot on.
So
the butterfly clips in my hair.
Oh, the butterfly clips. Yeah,
I had a Ellen DeGeneres haircut in one of my school photos and butterfly clips.
Oh, you did them both. You know what I used to do is I used to take my hair in little chunks and twist it up and clip it with butterfly clips all over my head. We were really cool.
We'll share those pictures on our Instagram.
Yeah, you guys will get a dose of something awful. So generally, puberty hits between like 8 and 13, but it's like totally dependent on the person.
God, I came out 8 years old.
That's when I started, but I didn't get my period until I was 12.
No, I got my period. Well, it was like spring of '99, so I was 11, and yeah, 5th grade. Thank God I was at home. Ugh.
I was at school.
Awful.
Actually, so I was at school, and the first time I just like spotted, but felt like garbage. And because the PCOS, I then didn't get it again for like 6 months.
Ugh.
And there was just a day, because, you know, there was no emphasis on like drinking water when we were kids.
No, but extreme emphasis on drinking milk.
Yes. Yes.
My bones must be steel. There's just no way.
I have Superman bones.
Our parents' bones are made of like brand new Play-Doh, extra soft.
Yep. I must have just gone like the whole afternoon without using the bathroom. And I got home from school and it is truly by the grace of God. I did not bleed through my pants because I got the heaviest period.
Oh my God.
And I like throw the underwear away, almost went through my pants. Like, don't know how I dodged that trauma.
Holy moly.
From like 7th grade. I
mean, I had that trauma from 7th grade wearing khakis.
Oh.
Orchestra.
I mean, how many times as a preteen did you stand up and say to your friends, am I good?
I just got really good at like standing up in a very dramatic fashion to kind of like peek and make sure that there was like nothing between, I don't know.
I just love the thought of Katie thinking she's being really subtle with
Super
this.
subtle. And
I would love to see the
doing like a bend and snap
candid camera version of Katie erupting from her chair, turning around, looking at the chair and checking, and then being like, okay, great, I'm good.
I also carried like a purse with me in middle school that had all of my accoutrement.
Yeah, I had more tampons and pads than like any one person. Actually, let's be honest, I just had pads. I only had pads. 10 billion pads.
I was told by my mother that if you used a tampon, then people would think you were easy.
Well, I was just afraid of them, so...
I didn't use them until college because then I was like running from class to class and I was like, I need a solution to...
Yeah, this pad is
like,
not going to work.
10 minutes between class and having to sprint 3/4 of a mile across campus.
Yeah.
And, like the line for the bath, like, no, I gotta...
Yeah, I don't think I started using tampons until I was in college. And even then, like, never been a fan of tampons, like, used them when I had to.
I so prefer them, especially at night. Oh my God.
Loathe tampons.
At night, like, as a teenager, I basically, like, created a Lisa Rinna Depends for myself by like wallpapering the back of my underwear to prevent leaking, because otherwise it would just like go all the way up my crack.
Yeah, it's the worst.
If you're a man listening, you're probably tuned out already.
Yeah, but... you know what? It's just just don't listen, because
PK's like,
it's gonna get nitty gritty.
Suddenly, you're not as cute.
Less cute. So obviously, puberty, adolescence. There's physical and emotional impacts, but this is actually a time when the body is growing and changing as fast as it did in infancy, which I think is really interesting.
Whoa, that's horrifying.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
But that tracks, though, because I remember, like, in 5th grade, actually, I changed shoe sizes in a 30-day period.
It's not,
my
and,
mom
like,
was so
leg
mad.
pain.
Yeah. I don't remember that. Oh. My mom would mention to me that I had, like, mood swings or whatever, and...
What are you talking about?
I just think that my brother is annoying.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that can be blamed on a news swing, like, or...
Ooh, news swing. I like it. Not just me having a problem today. A mood swing?
Yeah, a mood swing or a news flash, I don't know. But...
Yeah, I don't remember a lot of, like... mood swings.
And I don't remember ever feeling especially shitty, like PMS-y. I don't, like, there was never, and that was one thing that I always struggled with until I was on the pill, was, like, figuring out when I was going to get my period, because I never felt, and this goes back to my complete aloofness when it comes to anything.
No awareness of anything.
But I just didn't feel run down until I was like 3 days into my period, and then I'd be exhausted. But yeah, until then, perhaps my hyperactivity was shoving me over the edge. But yeah, so it was like always such a struggle for me, because I was like, yeah, of course I have a mood swing. Like, you keep telling me I'm having a mood swing. Like,
right, that's going to make it worse.
Exactly.
It's like telling me to calm down.
Right.
I remember, like, really terrible leg pain. Like, I'm 5 foot, like, 1.5. And I have been the same height since I was, like, 10.
Same.
Because I shot up in, like, 4th or 5th grade, and I was the tallest kid in my class, and everybody was like, you're going to be so tall. But then I stopped, and everybody else kept growing.
Yes.
So I remember having really terrible growing pains in my legs. I remember my legs just, like, aching.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
She's so upset. I can't believe I don't remember the leg pain. So during this time, your brain releases this special hormone called gonadotropin releasing hormone, or GnRH for short. So the GnRH hits the pituitary gland, which then triggers two more puberty hormones. This is just going to get worse because there's a lot of long words in here. There's the luteinizing hormone, LH for short, and the follicle stimulating hormone, which is FSH for short. So boys and girls both get these, which I did not know.
Okay. When you said follicle, I thought you meant like ovum follicle.
It is.
Oh, okay.
But, so for boys, those hormones travel through the blood and give the testes the signal to begin production of testosterone and sperm. So that LH and FSH, so the GnRH triggers the LH and FSH, which then triggers the testosterone.
I mean, that fully makes sense when you consider that a embryo, like when it's figuring out if it's going to be male or female at birth, like the ovaries are testicles and the testicles are ovaries.
Right, like everything starts the same
thing. It's just whether it migrates south or north. Yeah,
it's. I was like, I read that and I was like, no shit. So in girls, that FSH and LH target the ovaries, and obviously, like, I'm assuming most people know, when you're born, your ovaries contain all of the eggs that you'll ever have in your lifetime. Yes. So you're not producing eggs, you're just storing them. So that hormone is then going to stimulate the ovaries to start producing hormones. Nope, estrogen. So just like the FSH and LH triggered the testes to produce testosterone and sperm, the FSH and LH are targeting the ovaries to start producing estrogen and preparing the ovaries to start releasing eggs.
So the estrogen is what makes the ovaries release the egg.
Part of it.
Okay.
So that FSH and LH continues through women's lifetimes. Not sure about men. I got a little focused.
We are so underpaid. I can't even. Emotional dysregulation.
I'm mad now. No swings.
Oh my God, the gender pay gap is so much wider than 30%. Holy shit. We have to deal with this every time?
I'm just going to let you know that this anger that you're feeling is only going to grow as this episode goes on. So prepare.
No!
Be prepared. Like that Scar song from The Lion King.
Except I'm the dipshit hyena Ed.
Katie's got bones
chewing
and she's just like drumming. So that the estrogen, the FSH, the LH causes girls' bodies to mature and start ultimately, like in reality, preparing for pregnancy.
Right.
We're just not living in the Puritan times where you have to get pregnant when you're 14.
Right.
So ideally.
Goodness. Yeah.
And also worth noting, because I just feel like I have to state this, even though we've kind of already talked about it in previous episodes. So this period of time intentionally causes girls to gain weight. So your hips fill out, your breasts start developing, and it is not considered healthy or safe for girls to be dieting during this time. However, most of us started dieting around this time.
Yes, because that's when our schools started reporting our BMI.
Yes.
In gym class.
So,
probably.
Stick it to the man and ignore that advice because, and not obviously, like, we're not giving medical advice on this show because we're not clinicians, but it's not safe. Like, your body's growing. We obviously know, like, this is the most changing that your body's doing since you were a literal infant. Mm-hmm. So you just need to, like, let it run its course, which is, like, easy to say now that we're not in puberty anymore.
But I'm also saying it with, like, such spite because it's that thing of, like, if I had only known that was healthy.
Right.
And that
my body was doing what it was supposed to be doing.
Yeah, the weight that I ended up with and ended up being was what my body needs it to be.
Right.
To theoretically carry a healthy pregnancy.
Right.
So if I had only had that perspective.
Yep.
How much, like, basically self-harm thought.
Yeah, for sure.
I could have avoided for the past
and restricting
25 years of my life.
That all the cycles that you go through of, like, trying to fix this problem that isn't a problem. Also, big fucking shout out to the kid when I was like 12 that for no fucking reason in the hallway asked me if I had ever heard of Jenny Craig when I was going through puberty. So big shout out to him. I hope he has butthole spiders.
Wow. You know what? He can also choke on the glob of hair from the shower drain.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Let me change position of my choke.
Okay.
I like slide down as time goes on, and then I feel like I'm like a cheese curl sitting in this chair. I'm like, I need to sit up. So we know fluctuating hormones can cause mood swings, impulsiveness, trouble concentrating.
Who's that?
And unfortunately, for teens that have ADHD, the transition to puberty can like be further complicated by this ADHD. So we've also talked about before, I feel like this is also like a highlight reel of things we've discussed in the past, but
that keeps happening. Like the more that it goes on,
right,
the more we have like
we're like touching on old topics.
Yeah.
And reminding people of stuff. So there's that emotional lag. So kids with ADHD are like emotionally a little bit behind neurotypical kids. And puberty can cause that to be like even more jarring. Because now you've got these hormones that are impacting.
Right. Yeah. Like your emotional outbursts, so to speak.
Right.
Will be more pronounced.
Right. Girls, a lot of times, like girls with ADHD become more overreactive emotionally and more like hyper irritable during puberty, and they describe it as like problematic. So mood swings, anxiety, like they said, even feelings of panic, which I do feel like I remember to a degree.
I just went so hard into like, I'm gonna do it my way.
That doesn't sound like you at all. I don't know how that happened. Katie, what happened when you hit puberty?
Yeah, I guess I'm still in puberty then, I guess.
I am still pubescent.
I'm going to do it my way, goddammit. I'm going to figure it out, and, like, you can't stop me. And it was very self-fulfilling then that Legally Blonde came out. And
yes.
Elle Woods had her moment.
It is all making sense.
And I identified with that so much.
All making sense.
It's all coming,
well, when you think about it, like, emotional dysregulation, which obviously we've talked about, we know is, I mean, for me, that was like I'm still shocked by the emotional dysregulation coverage.
Still amazed that it could be positive.
Yes, that too. It's going to make that hormonal impact on puberty, like, even more intense. Like, you're already taking somebody who has that, like, kind of skipping over is this an appropriate response? Right.
And then I just tried out for cheerleading on a whim and did gymnastics and tried out for field hockey on a whim and did all these different things.
Yeah. You're like taking that hop, skip, and a jump from thinking to reacting, and then you're like hitting it with a nuclear bomb with puberty. So it's it gets intense.
I survived.
Sleep problems can also either develop or worsen, which we did talk about, like that usually starts around age 12 when we were talking about sleep, which then, it turns into that chicken egg situation. You've got, distractibility, inability to focus, disorganization, feeling overwhelmed. Those can all be fed by that lack of sleep.
Right. Which would also then, like, lack of sleep also heightens your cortisol thing, which can cause weight gain or water retention or whatever.
Yep.
Which also affects your hormone balance.
And you're feeling super self-conscious because your body is changing so rapidly, and you're having potentially mood swings and irritability.
I feel like especially as people who developed early, I felt so out of place. Like, I was sweatier than everybody else.
Yes.
I feel like I was the only person who had to wear deodorant in 5th grade and 4th grade. I probably wasn't, but that's just how it felt. Like, I was no longer able to shop at Limited 2 because their clothes didn't fit me. They don't fit people who have hips.
No, they're designed for, like, little girls. They weren't designed for, like, preteens that were built the way they were supposed to be built.
And it's very hard. I distinctly remember struggling with reconciling that. Mm-hmm. And my mom, to her credit, was just like, well, you're just growing. Like, that's just what happens.
Yeah.
Like it was never, like, there wasn't a shame thing about it. There was a shame thing from my stepmother about it. But my mom never did anything like that. And but yeah, it was just that kind of, like, kids' clothes don't fit me, the end. Like, it was, but when you, they're, at the time, like, I feel like the juniors department, like, at Macy's was still not really designed for women's bodies.
Yeah, no. There was no, like, I felt like at that age that there was no, like, teen clothes.
No.
It was either, like, in my view, frumpy old lady clothes.
Yes.
Or little kid clothes.
Yeah, like Christopher and Banks, or
yes.
You can dress like a school teacher from the 90s.
Yes.
Or a lady who enjoys going clubbing.
I remember wearing, like, some of my mom's old clothes.
Yep.
Because I just didn't, I mean, I was in uniform, so I think that cut down on a lot of that. But, like, times when I was able to wear, like...
Yeah, I wore my mom's clothes in, like, 3rd grade. Maybe I did develop early.
I changed my mind. You know what, now that I think about it, I do remember leg pain. And obviously, like, when all of these things are going on, your self-esteem is going to plummet.
Oh, totally.
And you're internalizing all of those negative thoughts. Plus, like, that's when bullying picks up. And
absolutely. And, like, again, for me, it was like, if I was on my period, I had to wear jeans because I felt like that was the only thing that would make me feel like everything was being kept in place where it needed to be, but also hiding the fact that I was wearing a diaper.
Yeah, I was afraid if I didn't wear jeans, people would know I was on my period if I was trying to wear something comfortable. Like, if I wore something comfortable, people were going to assume I was on my period because there was all that weird shame associated with having a period.
I just was like jeans and a hoodie constantly. I mean, that was like my uniform.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it still is. I don't know who we're kidding.
Let me be honest here. So, you know, you've got all these changes going on. For kids that were already being treated on stimulant medication, this time period can cause those stimulants to be less effective. So there's a lot of kids who were diagnosed at a young age that then have this big setback because the meds aren't as effective. They're not working the way that they were before. And all of these other, you know, changes that we've been talking about. So again, that ever-changing route, which is going to be true for boys and girls. But especially when you have those higher levels of estrogen and progesterone, it's really going to have a distinct impact on the ADHD medication. And they're saying that there's been studies that have shown that although estrogen can, like, enhance the response to amphetamine medications, it can be diminished by the presence of progesterone. So if your estrogen is high, great. But if your progesterone is also high, fizzucked.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's going to roll us right into periods and menstruation, which we've been touching on.
Yeah.
So we obviously know menstruation is the shedding of the lining of the uterus that occurs roughly in monthly cycles throughout a woman's reproductive life except during pregnancy. So it starts at puberty, which is called the menarche. When you start
menarche.
Yep. When you start your period. And then it stops permanently at menopause, which is defined as 1 year after your last menstrual cycle.
Okay.
So the cycle begins on the first day of bleeding, which is counted as day 1. And then the cycle ends before you start bleeding for your next cycle.
Okay.
So the average range is like 24 to 38 days. But really only like 10 to 15% of women have cycles that are 28 days. And at least 20% of women have irregular cycles that are shorter.
Yeah, I think
or
mine,
longer.
before I was on the pill, was like maybe 30 or 31 days.
Mm-hmm.
Because I tried to track it and it was never on the same day each month.
Because, I mean, as a kid, they made it sound like you're going to get your period.
They made it sound like it was a magazine subscription.
On the 5th of the month, yes, 100, like a billing cycle.
Yeah.
Like you're going to get on the 5th of the month every year, and this is what you're going to feel, and this is when it's going to come.
When you get it, you know it's time to pay your mortgage.
Yeah.
Like...
I mean, as a teenager, my cycle was completely unpredictable, never knew when I was going to get it, and then when I did get it, it was horrible. And then when I was 17, I wound up having an ovarian cyst that ruptured because I had this really irregular hormone cycle, and
still no diagnosis. That's
yeah,
cool.
nobody was concerned. I mean, like, my mom was just like, well, you know, when you're at that age, it takes a while before your body's really gonna get its stride and
that's
figure
what
out
I had heard from my mom. But then my mom also said that hers, like, she said that she knew she was pregnant with me because her period always started on the same day of the month at 4 p.m. That's how intensely accurate her cycle was.
I was always like,
so my expectation was that mine would be like that.
Right, at people like that. Because I knew people like that were like, oh, my period's coming. And I was always like, why do I feel like I am in a dark room?
Oh, for sure.
And
that's
it's just
going to
sneak
like,
up on me.
I just had no idea.
Yes. And honestly, so I was on the pill from the time I was like, I don't know, 18 or 19 until 30. So completely disconnected. Actually, younger than that. I think I was like maybe 17.
Yeah, I started it when I was like 16 because my mom wanted me to be okay if I was ever in a situation where...
Right. And because my period was so irregular, that was going to put me with a more predictable...
Yep.
And that was going to prevent me from getting another ovarian cyst because I have stable hormones.
Try to have a baby, like...
Lord
I have
knows.
no idea what my body's going to do. I'll probably blow up like Violet Beauregard, Willy Wonka.
So I really was, until I went off the pill when I was like 30, had no idea because I also used to skip the duds and I would just go pack to pack.
Because like around when we were like in our early 20s, they came out with like, there's no medical reason to have a period.
You don't need to get it. And I was like,
ideal.
Fuck yeah. Shit, I'm never getting it again. Give me the...
Yeah,
give me all the pills back to back.
Exactly. And like, I remember at some point my mom was like, you know, you should take a break from the pill and like give your body a break, And I asked my doctor about it. And she was like, no, because back when the pill first came out, yes.
Because the hormone level was so high.
Was so much higher that they wanted to make sure that you didn't just permanently stop releasing eggs.
Right.
But because now the hormone levels in oral contraceptives are so low, it's not a concern. So, I mean...
Oh, yeah, like my last like again, version of the pill.
At this point that they should probably go in there and harvest some just in case.
Just to be safe. By the time I went off the pill, because again, for anybody that's been on the pill long term, which I feel like is a lot of people, they're constantly switching what pill you're on. So 1 month you can pick it up and it's this, and the next month it's something else. And
yes,
and they have different side effects, by the way.
Right, like even if it's the same active ingredient or whatever, if it's a different manufacturer,
if it's the same like formulary,
at least in the U.S. anyway, the FDA permits a certain percentage deviation from the patented like brand name version. So, for example, I was on Sprintec for the longest time, and then my pharmacy switched me over to something called Millie, and I started having side effects from it, where I would just have like regular breakthrough bleeding, like full periods. And I called the pharmacy and they're like, it's the same pill. And I was like, well, clearly not, because I'm suddenly having side effects that I was never having before. And I completely changed my entire pill regimen because I was like, well, obviously if they're going to be substituting this, then this isn't working for me.
Right.
And the Sprintec was like no longer being manufactured or something. It just was fully unavailable. So I was like, and it would go back and forth. So I would get like 3 months at a time because I take it straight through.
Yep.
So I'd get a 3 month or 4 month pack of Sprintec, and then the next time I get it filled, it's Millie, and then I'm back to Sprintec. And I was like, this is just ridiculous. Just give me a different medication.
Right, so that I can be on the same one.
Right, and not have breakthrough
refill to refill.
Because like that, the whole reason, like if the reason that I'm taking the pill at this point, like I'm 35. The reason I'm taking the pill is because I like the predictability of knowing when I'm going to get my period, or more importantly, that I'm not going to get it.
Yes.
When I don't expect to. And I mean, yeah, the contraceptive part is important, being that I'm in a relationship. But like, there are other ways that we can bypass having kids at this point.
Right.
So.
And also there's been studies where they've said like the pill ultimately is only like 75% effective in preventing pregnancy.
Yeah.
I almost fell over when I read that. When I was relying on the pill, I was like, oh How come nobody is
my
saying
understanding is that
this?
you could get pregnant theoretically. A egg could be inseminated, but whether that attachment would survive your break week is like, that's the minimal, like, so it's almost like an induced plan B because the drop off in hormones is so significant that it triggers the period regardless. Right. Which is fine by me, unless I've been using up all my eggs and I'm all out.
In that case, I'm concerned.
Bummer.
Yeah, I remember when I started on the pill, whatever one they put me on was $50 a refill, because this is like obviously before legislation went through.
Yeah, before Obamacare.
Right.
Yeah. Birth control was hella pricey.
I remember my mom being like, okay, you need to call them and ask them for like a generic version of this, because $50 a refill is not reasonable.
Yeah. Even on the generic before Obamacare, I think I was like at $30 a month. Like, it was $1.
It was expensive.
Yeah.
Again, men, how much money do you have to spend every month on your hormonal fluctuations? I'm sorry, we're only going to do that about 10,000 more times in this episode. So when they switched me from the name brand to the generic, I wound up getting I had terrible headaches. I was having nightmares. I was having mood swings, like all of these things that were unusual for me. And I remember having I got into a fight with one of my friends, and I was so up. They were they had some kind of symptoms going on with something, but they refused to see their doctor. And we just got in this fight, and I got really angry. And I remember my mom being like, "What? Are you okay?" And being like, "Bah!" It's so mad. And then I was like, oh my God, let me Google this medication. And sure enough, these were all symptoms. And I'm like, again, has anybody talked to me about side effects? Has anybody mentioned, hey, if you're switching, because I'm thinking it's the same medication. Right. My body's going to react
because they don't tell you.
Nobody tells you.
And it's pretty significant. I think it's up to 5% difference.
Yeah. And I mean, when you're 18, why would I think that the same medication is going to react?
I only found out about that last year. That was the thing. I was 34. God damn it. It didn't, no one says that. They're just it's the generic. It's the same as the regular one. This one's just paid for by your insurance. Yes. Okay, cool.
Great. Oh, this is a tier 3 instead of a tier 1. Oh, whatever.
No idea what that means. Why are we all crying? Oh, you mean different tier? Got it.
Yeah. Oh, TIER. I see.
Good job.
So periods are, and really until I went off, it took me another year and a half to figure out what the course of events is. And sometimes I have a shorter.
Now they have apps that help you track it. Back in the day, I was using a made up, calendar chart thing that I wrote on my journal.
I was using apps, and then when Roe got overturned, they started warning people to stop using apps. And not that we live in a state where we have to be concerned about it, or it was something that was legitimately a concern of mine, but I just felt out of solidarity, fuck you, I'm not using Flow anymore. So I stopped keeping track of it that way and started just writing it down. And interestingly enough, so it's saying the average, menstrual cycle, the bleeding lasts 4 to 8 days. I've had periods where I bled for, 2-3 weeks straight. But the blood loss during a cycle usually ranges from 1/5 of an ounce to 2.5 ounces, somewhere in there. Sometimes I feel like I've lost no less than a gallon, personally.
It does. Yeah, no, it's true. I remember them saying something 2 tablespoons is the average amount.
Not a chance.
Yeah, first of all, I don't know who measures that. That's got to be a weird job. But also, there's just no way that the crime scene in my pants.
Correct.
That I experienced, especially as a teenager.
Yes.
Is only 2 tablespoons of mess.
I think when I went off the pill, I switched over to I used the period underwear.
Oh yeah.
And cups, and the cups have made me so much more aware of just how much there is. So
yeah, because those have a volume of at least 2 tablespoons.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I'm always like amazed and feel like everybody's a liar. And on that note, we are going to pick up this conversation next week because who has the attention span for a 2-hour episode? Certainly not us. Make sure to tune in next Thursday for the continuation of this conversation, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll be here next Thursday with a brand new episode to delight your brain juices. In the meantime, the best way to support us is to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast streaming platform. You can keep up with us during the week on Instagram and Facebook at The Bar is Ankle High and on Twitter at Ankle High Pod. If you want even more ankle high hot takes in your life and have a few dollars to spare, consider joining our Patreon at patreon.com/thebarisAnkleHigh. We post bonus episodes there full of our karaoke attempts, Am I the Asshole discussions, and wondering how we even managed to survive this long. Patreon subscribers also get exclusive access to our secret Patreon-only Facebook group and get added to our close friends list on Instagram. Until next week, remember to be kind to yourself because the bar is ankle high.